Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by HYCU. It's titled The MSP Opportunity, Unlocking SaaS and Cloud Revenue with HYCU. My name is Andy Fernandez. I'm the Director of Product Management here at HYCU. We're going to pause for a couple of seconds before we get started, just because we want to let all the attendees in. I know that we just started, so let's give you guys a couple of seconds so everybody can catch up. And then in about 30 seconds, we'll get started with the actual content and the delivery today. If you have any questions throughout the session, please use the Q&A panel. I will make sure to answer these questions live, both in the chat and also at the end. If you have a question at the end, please speak up and we'll unmute you and you'll be able to ask your question. Regarding the actual content of the presentation, this will be recorded. You will receive an email with both the recording file and the presentation itself, and we can send you any more information that you'd like, whether it's on the product side or on the program side as well. So with that, let's get started. When we look at today's agenda, here's going to be the focus. The first thing is we're going to talk about a little bit of a hidden gem and an opportunity here within the MSP community, which is unlocking SaaS and cloud revenue. We're then going to point our attention towards understanding what are some of the biggest challenges our customers face today regarding ransomware attacks, specifically targeting SSO providers, and even provide a customer checklist that we deliver to our customers that you'll be able to take advantage of as well. But really what we're doing here is defining the critical problem that needs to be solved, and then showing you how HYCU solves that problem and how HYCU does it from an MSP perspective, from a multi-tenant perspective, and what does that mean to be able to drive an entire line of business on data protection as a service associated within cloud and SaaS revenue, which is usually not been attainable from an MSP perspective. So with that being said, that's the focus of today. Please, any questions, go into the Q&A and we'll go from there. Now, what you're going to leave with this webinar is first, you're going to have access to a SaaS discovery service for your customers. This will be free of charge. This is something that you can drive today from a demand capture perspective. You'll also have a full plan on how you can actually build a data protection as a service practice within Okta and other SaaS and cloud applications as well. You'll see a full product demo with full multi-tenant SaaS discovery, and then you'll have free access to the HYCU platform as well. So with that, let's get started. So one thing that I want to mention here is 5 years ago, there was a lot of talk about cloud, and it was always around, hey, cloud's taking over the world, this, and that. And a lot of people associated that with marketing. They were right. A lot of the cloud use cases back then were really focused on storage. It was focused on DR, backup to cloud for cost savings, for flexibility, moving away from colo facilities that were CapEx and leveraging it for OpEx. But what we're actually seeing today is now an actual parity in spend between the data center and cloud. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that by the end of this year, there'll be $600 billion globally spent on SaaS and cloud revenue. This is the first year where we're now starting to see parity. Now, what does this mean? This doesn't mean the data center is going away, but what it does mean is that cloud and SaaS are equally large markets now, especially within IT channel as well. Now, the challenge here, though, is that a lot of this revenue in cloud and SaaS has gone mostly untouched in the channel community. Why? Because anybody with a credit card can spin up a SaaS service, spin up a cloud instance, and move forward from there. So it's been a little bit more of a trickier scenario on building a business practice around it. But the focus of today is actually showing you how you can build an entire line of business on capturing cloud and SaaS revenue, not just focus on data protection on-prem as well. But to understand the opportunity, we have to understand how things have evolved. Let's go back 15 years. Organizations simply had a data center. Maybe they had multiple facilities, but all tier 1 applications were running in a data center. All business applications, all critical infrastructure storage was all managed in a data center. You go a couple of years back, and you started to see the first glimpse of adoption within cloud. You started to see public cloud used from a storage perspective, even some people becoming early adopters of containers, but still tier 1 applications were still running on-prem. And you started to see folks now start to adopt a few SaaS services, usually things like Microsoft 365, Salesforce, Jira, you name it. But the whole focus here is this was still in the control of IT. This was still managed by IT, it was paid for by IT, but most critical infrastructure was still running on-prem. If we go to today's modern architecture in the hybrid world, there's still an on-prem footprint. That's not going to go away. But you're starting to see folks who not only lifted and shifted, but actually modernized in the cloud. You're starting to see organizations that fully modernizing the cloud, and they're adopting all of these native services. And they're even running production in those clouds as well. And not only that, you also see the full departmental adoption of SaaS. We're talking anybody with a credit card in any department, finance, HR, marketing, sales, can go and adopt a SaaS service. Now, what this means is we've gone from one single space where organizations were managing infrastructure now to a sprawl of SaaS, cloud, and hybrid models as well. That's the reality that we live in today. But what does that have anything to do with data protection? Well, the reason this is so critical today is that many organizations, when they move to a SaaS, they think that they are no longer responsible for anything. I'm paying these folks a couple bucks a month for this service. I don't need to do anything anymore. They said that they were going to maintain it for me. Now, what is the actual shared responsibility model? Well, think of cloud, think of SaaS, whether it's AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, or even things like M365. Think of them as a parking garage where you go and you park your car, you pay them, they keep the lights on, you have access to the service. But if somebody steals your laptop, scratches your car, maybe even steals your car, the parking garage will not reimburse you for that. They take no legal responsibility. They are not responsible for theft or damage to the vehicle. SaaS is the same. AWS, Azure, Atlassian, or Okta, they're responsible for the system. They have to keep the system up and running, secure, and accessible. But if somebody encrypts, corrupts, or even accidentally deletes their own data, they are responsible. Their data is their car. The SaaS provider cannot take responsibility for that. Now, this has been a critical myth that we've seen. Now, a couple of years ago, people thought the same of Microsoft 365. Now, organizations are starting to understand that they have to protect their M365 workloads as well. But guess what? There are thousands of other SaaS applications where organizations are starting to realize that they are responsible for its protection. Now, let's actually take a look at some of them. Let's take a look and let's go beyond M365. Let's go and take a look at Salesforce, at Atlassian, at Okta. These are some of the most critical SaaS applications in the world, adopted from public sector to commercial and even government. What do we see? Well, we see different versions of the same thing, which is, look, we are responsible for the service. Whether it's Okta, whether it's Atlassian, Salesforce, Miro, Notion, ServiceNow, it doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. We as the vendor are responsible for the service. You as the tenant or as the customer are responsible for maintaining your compliance, are responsible for your data. So this means that you actually, as a customer, are responsible to have to back up, recover, and keep your data compliant. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, data loss, cyber attacks, security and compliance haven't gone away. And so organizations are now having a massive vulnerability where they have workloads that are critical, that are completely unprotected and unrecoverable in the event of an incident. Some of the things that we see the most actually are not even nefarious. It's just misconfigurations, deletions. Somebody goes and accidentally deletes something is the biggest cause of data loss to this day, whether it's within Okta, within Atlassian, or even within your cloud development cycle. This is just one area, though. The other critical area that we have to think about, organizations have all these SaaS applications. Now, cyber attacks are rapidly targeting SaaS applications. They're rapidly targeting SSO providers. So how are organizations going to be able to recover from that? And then obviously you have your data retention and governance requirements as well. We're even starting to see as of next year in the EU, the NIS 2 framework and DORA specifically are going to be asking for explicit backups of SaaS and recovery processes for SaaS because they know that this is a critical problem. But something that I want to really focus on today, though, is the cyber threat, the actual threat of a ransomware attack going after not only your cloud and SaaS applications, but the keys to the kingdom as well. And the reason we're concerned about this is we've already seen continuous rise in ransomware. But let's go back a couple of years ago. Let's go back 7-8 years ago. The skill required to release a high quality ransomware attack was very high. And so when you saw these, it was usually a state-backed attack or a very sophisticated syndicate of cyber criminals that was able to execute those early stage ransomware attacks that were effective. Let's go back 3 years or fast forward 3 years, you started to see dark web availability of scripts, malware injections, emails, you name it. So the skill requirements or the barrier to entry continued to lower. But still, the best attacks were still created by themselves. Now, where are we today? You have things like Worm GPT, Evil GPT. These are LLMs based on malicious activity where you can prompt end to end an entire attack. You no longer need to be able to write a script, a line of code, even create your own emails. These are things that are fully prompted. The barrier to entry for a high quality attack has never ever been lower. So what does this actually mean? Well, even before the existence of Evil GPT and Worm GPT, you already started to see the average ransom increase because they knew the leverage that they had. You saw an increase in volume of attacks, and you saw an average downtime experience of 22 days. But as we see this evolution, this adaptation of AI into cyber attacks, you're going to see both the volume and the quality of these attacks increase. You're also going to see a focus on SSO providers and a focus on targeting all of these SaaS applications and cloud misconfigurations. Hackers understand that customers have not been able to secure their SaaS environments either. So this is something that they're focusing on. Even today, SaaS is already the number one target for ransomware attacks as well. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, if you were a hacker, what would you focus on? Where would you go to get access to anything that an organization could have? What would be the keys to the kingdom? Well, it's the SSO provider itself, whether that's Ping ID, Duo, Okta, Entra ID, you name it, that is the keys to the kingdom. It's a critical service. It's an incredible service that delivers a ton of value that you can enable MFA. But guess what? There are critical configurations in there that hackers are explicitly going after. And their goal is to be able to give themselves access, super user access, and then go and start encrypting all the other critical information that you see across the board. This is a clear focus. We've seen this already, and this is something that's not going to go away. And you're starting to see the scope target SSO providers and SaaS applications themselves. Now, what can we do about actually helping customers protect their SSO configurations and actually secure their data estate? When I say data estate, I don't just talk about hybrid environments. I'm talking about native cloud services, native SaaS services that they're leveraging across the entire company, not just within IT. So the immediate plan that we recommend for customers, and by the way, there's an MSP component to this that we'll share, is two things. One, if you don't know what your organization is using, you are at risk of a ransomware attack. Now, the first thing that organizations have to do is actually map out the estate, understand where the gaps are. The next thing that they have to do is ensure that they have ransomware-proof backups, immutable copies that they can recover critical configurations of their SSO provider and also other SaaS applications as well. Now, we'll provide this checklist in an email for you because it's something that every single one of your customers should have. But this is the checklist that we provide when it comes to the first step. It's how to map out your SaaS estate and expose those risks. First, you have to even understand, okay, what is the total of SaaS applications and cloud services that we're using? And really understand beyond just, hey, as an organization, we're using AWS. AWS is massive. There are dozens of services that make up an application. You have to look at each of those services and how they're configured. These are areas of entry for an attacker. You then want to be able to categorize by departments and then identify the ones that don't have backup and recovery in place. And of course, from a shadow IT perspective, you have to do everything that you can to help the customer start adding those applications to the directory. Now, that's step one, is exposing the problem. Two is actually starting to protect your SSO configurations. And what I mean by SSO configurations, I mean your access policies, your roles, all of the configurations and entities in your Okta and your Entra ID that are critical to the organization. And what we recommend is that at minimum, you should be backing these up daily. You want to be able to restore these from a granular perspective. You want to make sure that passwords are reset in case of a breach and you're able to restore to a safe point in time. You want to keep logs, you want to enable notifications, and you regularly have to test. I won't go too into the weeds with this, but we'll send this checklist out because it's something that we recommend to any organization that uses an SSO provider. Now, with that being said, though, I want to break down the actual MSP opportunity here. We really wanted to focus on the customer first and what were the challenges that we're seeing with the customer. But now that we understand that, one, This is a $600 billion market. Most of it has gone direct. There's an opportunity here for MSPs to deliver a value-added service with data protection and visualization as well. So the first thing that we offer within HYCU, and everyone's going to see a live demo of this, is being able to capture demand and help customers solve this problem with free SaaS discovery. What do I mean by this? Being able to actually use Okta or Azure AD to crawl the directory and identify all of the SaaS applications, the cloud services in use, and actually help expose all total sources and tell you, here's how many critical applications you have. Here is how many are outside of IT, by the way, by department. And then here's the ones that don't have any native backup and recovery. And I'm actually going to show you this in the demo as well. And everyone will leave this call with free access to this service as well. Now, visualization is one thing. This is how you're able to solve a specific problem for customers. But when they see these SaaS applications unprotected, what can they do? Well, at HYCU, we built a full multi-tenant experience for MSPs to be able to offer data protection as a service, not only for Okta, but for so many other SaaS applications and cloud services. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, one, as you saw, you'll be able to fully discover SaaS applications. The second one is help customers restore their data. And I'm not talking about recovering an entire instance, which anyone can script. It's actual item level restore. If this specific access policy was breached in Okta, can we restore that to a safe point in time? And that applies to any other SaaS application as well. And then, can we offer as a service immutable copies outside of the SaaS hosted in the storage choice of the partner as well? This is a critical component as we see organizations in the financial sector and healthcare, they need off-site retention of data. It needs to be immutable. With HYCU as a partner, you can offer that as a service to customers. And ultimately, customers can restore or can store the data as long as they please. Just because you've gone to a SaaS does not mean you don't have SaaS data retention requirements. Healthcare organizations have to keep data for 7 years. These SaaS applications are not keeping that data for 7 years. So there are clear areas here to focus on, not only on operational recovery, on ransomware protection, but also from a compliance perspective as well. And one thing that I want to mention too, specific to Okta, this is something that only HYCU is able to do. And only HYCU is able to actually use Okta or AD itself to expose and visualize all of the SaaS applications. We're the only ones who also offer storage orchestration, meaning we don't store the backups for the customer. It is stored in either their storage of choice or their partner storage of choice. This could be Amazon S3, Google Cloud, or S3 compatible storage like a Wasabi. But enough of explaining it to you. I'd much rather show you in a live demo how, one, as a partner, you can offer a full free visualization service, and then two, how you can actually offer the data protection as a service component, not just for Okta, but other SaaS applications as well. Now I'm logging in here to HYCU. So a lot of you may have known HYCU from the Nutanix days or the VMware days and what we're able to do specifically to protect critical infrastructure on-prem. That's still a big focus of ours. It's still something that we do, but we've understood the value of being able to protect cloud and SaaS, and we built the R Cloud platform. So what you're seeing here is an actual SaaS. It's a multi-tenant enabled SaaS that allows customers or partners to offer the protection and the recovery and the storage of critical SaaS applications like Okta. So what you're seeing here is I'm actually going to sign in using Okta. And this is a full deployment within HYCU where we're actually protecting our applications. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is rGraph, this discovery service that we've spoken about. So let's go in here and I'll show you the first thing that a customer could see. Now, if you're on the resale side, every single one of your customers can subscribe to this, open a HYCU account, and you can help them enable this. But if you're an MSP, this is something that you can do within your environment, within your HYCU deployment, and offer to customers as well. And whether it's Okta or Azure AD, all you need is an API token from Okta Administrator or from the Azure Administrator, and we will automatically discover all of the SaaS applications that belong there. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, let's use HYCU as an example in the applications that we use. This is HYCU. This is the company. These yellow nodes are departments. So what we're able to do is we crawl through the entire directory and then expose all of the sources, but we categorize them by a department. This way you can help the organization understand what they're using. So let's expose what sales and marketing are doing. Let's expose engineering. Let's expose the sandbox environment. Let's move on maybe to even a couple of other services as well, like DevOps. And then let's expose other departmental SaaS as well. Now, what's the purpose of this? Well, one, we show the mess that a cloud and SaaS sprawl can actually be in an organization, even in a mid-sized organization. In fact, the average mid-sized org, I'm talking over 1,000 employees, has over 200 SaaS applications. That's not even counting cloud services. So the first thing that we're able to do is expose the total sources that we have. But now it's time to actually identify the risk profile and identify the applications that one are critical and two that have to be protected. So what HYCU does is we go from this blob mode into a much more structural view where we can show you, once again, here's your customer's company, the departments that they use, but now we can start exposing the specific SaaS applications. And now instead of guessing, you can tell the customer, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, did you know that you don't have any backup and recovery capabilities within Box? How are you protecting that today? How are you using your Zoom videos? Are you storing them? Do you have any compliance requirements? If somebody deleted critical training videos, how would you go back? The same thing applies to Zendesk and so on. There are thousands of these applications. The strong majority of them have no backup and recovery capabilities. So what this means is that you have an opportunity to expose the total risk for a customer and give them a free value add within seconds. As long as they have the API token, this is done in seconds. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, one, you get as an MSP or as a reseller full account visibility. You are providing a value added service and you are seeing everything that's running in the environment. It helps you understand how to build a cloud practice, where to focus on. Is it Azure? Is it AWS? What SaaS applications are they using? This is full visibility that you're gaining as well. Now, how do you actually protect it? How do you go about protecting and offering a data protection as a service? Now, let's talk a little bit about how HYCU works in this sense. One, at HYCU, we realized that we had thousands of SaaS applications that we had to build, hundreds of cloud services. And what we realized was there's no way we can build them one at a time. So we built a development platform where the ISVs themselves or even strategic partners can build upon our API, upon our technology, and release backup and recovery themselves with the revenue share of several cloud services and several SaaS applications. So what you'll see is actually by the end of this, you'll see that HYCU, we've just celebrated our 50th integration, whether it's cloud services, SaaS applications, you name it. We are the leader now in SaaS data protection and cloud data protection, and it's not close. And it's because of this development platform. Now, what does this mean from the perspective of RGraph? Well, let's say that you discover and you used Okta as the single source of discovery for RGraph. And the organization has things like Jira, Terraform, and maybe AWS. Here is what HYCU can do. Remember when we showed you RGraph, and that RGraph gives you an ability to expose everything. This also has multi-tenancy built into it. So these are called protection sets. What protection sets could be a company, it could be a department, but it's a gardened wall of everything that belongs to that protection set. So let's grab the one I have for engineering. Once again, this could be a company. What you're able to do is still, one, discover all of the sources, but actually start protecting them. All you have to do is add it as a source. You say, oh, this customer has Okta, let me add Okta as a source. And what does that actually mean? Well, we discover all of the sources that belong to it. And what you're able to do is create a backup policy for that customer. So that customer, for example, is a highly secure environment, and they're very worried about data loss. They're very worried about exposure. So you could say, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, for these Okta configurations, let's back them up every hour. And let's actually keep them for a long time because we don't know about dwell times. That's critical. You can modify the policies as you please for Okta, for Salesforce. You can standardize it, or you can make all of your policies customized as well. This is done in one click. Now, where does the data actually go? Well, once you create your policy, you can decide what the storage target is. These are not HYCU storage targets. These are the customer storage targets that they designate, or you as a partner, the storage targets that you designate. So you can grab something like a Wasabi and offer that as the storage for your data protection as a service. So you can say, hey, all of your Salesforce, your Atlassian, your Okta, etc., will all be stored on Wasabi. And don't worry, we'll also shortly adding Azure as a storage target as well for those MSPs that are Azure focused as well. Now, backup is easy. Moving data from one place to another is easy. The biggest differentiator of HYCU is actually the granularity of the restore. Let's grab Okta. Remember, Okta configurations, Entra ID, these are all highly targeted. With Okta, once you've assigned your backups, one, you have full view on your backup windows. Is everything working? What are the point in times that I can restore? Let's say they actually detect that something went wrong and somebody accessed it or changed a configuration in Okta. You can go in there, whether it's at the organization level or even a specific administrator role, or even SMS templates, policies, brands, policy rules. It doesn't matter what was affected. You can go in there specifically and restore that to a safe point in time. All passwords are reset, and you've been able to kick out somebody within a breach as well. How does this help the customer? One, it can effectively stop all of the consequences of a breach, help them recover and move on versus having an extended amount of downtime. Two, the customer doesn't have to go and rebuild all of their configurations. It is restored to a safe point in time from an immutable copy if that's what they choose to pay for. Now, that's just Okta, but what about critical SaaS applications like Jira? This is something that now hundreds of thousands of customers use, and they're using the cloud service. Guess what? It's still their responsibility to protect and recover their data. We offer the same item level restore. Same thing applies to Salesforce. The same thing applies to everything that we have here. One critical component that I want to mention too, though, is you can generate complete roles within your organizations or even for the customers as well. So you can select and deliver role-based access control on top of the permissions that they're already using. This is designed and optimized for MSPs to be able to offer data protection as a service. And ultimately, you always have reporting available to you that you can provide to your customer, along with full logging and event management. You will not have an activity that will not be logged. It's API enabled. You can do what you want with the data, especially if you have highly secure customers. Now, that is the premise of HYCU. That's our focus. We're just getting started. We already have 50 integrations, but we know that we need so much more. What does that actually mean? Well, every month in our service updates, we're releasing 3 to 6 SaaS applications and cloud services. That is a continuous upsell motion for you as an MSP to be able to deliver one, solve customer challenges, but also increase your addressable market as HYCU starts to open more applications. And if your customer has an idea of an application that they want, but we don't yet support, let's use an example of something like Workday. This is a critical HR software. You can go in yourself or the customer and specifically request this. This gives us a database that we go to our partners and we get Workday rapidly built as we see demand for it. Then the customer or yourself gets a notification that Workday is available. These are continuous upsell motions that are available via HYCU. So with that, what I want to mention here is we're fully committed. So I'm on the product management team in a full commitment, not only from a go-to-market perspective, but also in the way that we build our product is to help MSPs unlock SaaS and cloud revenue. We're a 100% channel-focused company. Everything that we do is via our channel partners. So even our product development, the experiences that we deliver are all focused on helping you solve cloud and SaaS challenges for our customers, not just on premise, not just with single SaaS. This is about protecting their entire data estate. This is just a sample of some of the services that we already protect. We will continue and continue growing this. Now, with that said, I want to make sure that we address any questions that we have today. But one, if you want to try rGraph yourself, if you want free access, just register in the link. Somebody will be posting on the chat access to the link. Once you register there, you will have access to rGraph. Once you do that, we will train you and help you build a practice where you can offer this to your customers. You get your own landing page, your own co-branding materials, and you can offer our graph as a service to your customers. This will be your product-led growth tool to drive data protection as a service. But if you're relatively new to HYCU, you can also contact us to get started and understand how we can help you build a cloud and SaaS practice. And we have Wendy Inwood here, who's our EMEA channel leader. If you don't have a contact at HYCU, please contact Wendy. She is the channel leader and she can help you get started, become a partner, and really start driving SaaS and cloud revenue. Now, with that, I'm going to pause for the audience. If there are any questions, comments, this is now, the floor is yours to be able to address this. And I'll check the Q&A for now. We might have a shy audience, but if you do have any questions, please reach out to us. Any product questions, please reach out to me. Any partnership questions, how to get started, how do I do this, what are the commercials, Wendy can help you and guide you through the entire process. So with that, I'm going to pause for a few seconds, but if not, I hope everybody has a great day. Please reach out to us. We're looking forward to the collaboration. So thank you for your time today. You'll receive an email with the recording, all the details, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.